name is Sarah, and welcome to the Bookish Knitter, and welcome to my weekly reading wrap-up. So this is for week number 12. It is March 17th through March 23rd. So in this video, I will talk about all of the books that I finished reading over the course of that week. In the description box below, I will leave timestamps if you want to jump to any of the individual books. I will also have a list of my spice ratings, as I like to call it. So you can know when I say it's a 2 chili pepper book or a 3 chili pepper book, you can know what that means. All that is listed in the description box below. So I finished reading 5 books this week. Very good week, or last week I should say. So let's jump into those books. So the first book that I finished was Bewitched, Bothered, and Biscotti by Bailey Cates. This is the second book in the Magical Bakery Mystery Series. I read this as an ebook, and I borrowed it from the Toronto Public Library. I gave it 4 stars. This one was really fun. The first book, okay, so I read this series years ago, and I think I read like the first 3 or 4, and I really, really enjoyed it. And when I did the reread of book 1, I think it was it in January or February? I can't remember. I didn't love it as much as I loved it the first time. I've read a lot of cozies since I've read these books, and this one really does have a very, very magical element, which when it comes to a mystery, I don't love as much. Because I feel in a way it's almost like, and I'm going to use air quotes, cheating. Like in the first book, one of the characters uses like her voice, which can make people like tell them things that they wouldn't normally say. She uses that to get information. And again, that's like kind of the easy way out, if you will. I didn't find that as much in this book, and I'm now reading it, appreciating it for what it is, that this is not a typical murder mystery. You are getting that very mystical element. So if you're unfamiliar with this series, with the Magical Bakery mystery series, it's about our main character, Katie Lightfoot, who has moved from Ohio, I think it is, to Savannah, Georgia. And she runs a bakery, the Honeybee Bakery, with her aunt and her uncle. And she is a practicing witch. And her aunt is one as well. They have a coven, and they stumble across dead bodies. So in this one, she is with one of her potential boyfriends, Declan, and they're out having like a brunch at this park one morning, and they stumble across a dead man. And the story goes from there. It involves druids and the witches. The one thing about this one, this is a Halloween book. Can't tell from the cover, but it is a Halloween book. So this one does take place over Halloween. The final scene of the book takes place on Halloween night, or Samhain, if you will. And I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a lot of fun. This is, again, if you are someone who enjoys that more mystical, witchy, supernatural type element, you'll really like this series. It's very, very well done. I like all of the characters. Like the Coven ladies are a lot of fun. And Katie's dog Mungo is delightful. Now, there is, in the beginning, the first few books, a bit of a love triangle, a little bit. Because like I said, she was out for lunch or brunch with this gentleman, Declan, that she's seeing. And then there is another guy named Steve that she is seeing. And he's like, I don't want to get into his whole backstory because it's kind of revealed in this book. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was fun. I do know from reading the series personally, like going a little bit further, the love triangle does get resolved relatively quickly. It doesn't drag on forever, let's put it that way. But yeah, this one was really enjoyable. The next book that I finished, talking about books that were enjoyable, was Desert Shadows by Emilie Richards. This is Harlequin Romantic Suspense number 401, originally published in October of 1991. This is the first book in the Palm Springs Confidential series. It's a duology. I need to buy book 2. I've got it in my cart on Thrift Books. When I get some money, I'm going to buy it and then I'm going to read it. I obviously read it in this edition. I gave this book 4 stars and it was a single chili pepper. I find the older books are not as spicy as the newer ones, in my opinion. It depends on the book, but this one was definitely a fade to black type situation. So anyway, this is the story of Felice and Gallagher. His first name is Josiah, but he goes by Gallagher. It's his last name. So without revealing too much, because you kind of are given stuff as you're reading the story, basically the premise of this one is our main character Felice is undercover at a convent as a nun. Again, this book just made me smile from beginning to end. And she is protecting another nun. She has been hired to protect this woman. There's a whole thing in the background about like a cartel, and it's a whole thing, and I don't want to get into it. Read the book. These are, now for those of you who are like, well, now I gotta hunt out this book. No, you can actually find these books. They're available as ebooks. So you can buy them if you want to, or maybe your library might have them. I don't know, but they are available as ebooks. So you can pick them up if you want to. They are readily accessible is what I'm trying to say. So basically, she is not the best nun. She doesn't abide by the no talking thing. She just wants to sneak out to have a cigarette. And then Gallagher is there, and he's supposed to be there as like the new handyman. But it turns out like he's an FBI agent, and he's, keeping the other nun safe as well. And then the two of them end up getting stranded in the desert. It's this whole thing, and I loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. It was so much fun. So much fun. The banter between Felice and Gallagher was hilarious, especially when they were trapped in the desert together. It was brilliant. I love this. So the second book in the series, because the whole thing is that she runs a private investigations firm, and it's with her and her best friend Kelly. So the second book is about Kelly. So I'm really looking forward to reading it because you do meet Kelly in this book. But yeah, this one was a joy to read. If you can get your hands on it, it was a lot of fun. The next one that I finished was another Babysitters Club book, and that was Marianne Saves the Day by Anna M. Martin, book number 4 in the Babysitters Club series. I read this as a print book, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. Not one of my favorites in the series. It is a book that you need to read because it really does advance like the overall plot of the series. Like you're introduced to Dawn, and this is the book that changes Marianne quite a bit from, being like really like her father being super strict to kind of laying off a little bit more. But in this one, the babysitters are fighting from like page 1 to almost the very end. And I'm not one who likes that in the books. Thankfully, it doesn't happen a lot. But I mean, like any friend group, they are going to go through, ups and downs. But the fact that like, it was just I don't know, the fact that they're fighting with each other, I found a lot of it very, very childish. I mean, they are only 12, but still, even so, you know what I mean? In other books, they seem so very mature, and then you really see the fact that they're 12 come out in this book. Does that make sense? So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. The whole plot of this one is that Marianne's there's a whole fight between the Babysitters Club, and Marianne is feels like the youngest because she's got like she can't stay out as late as the rest of the other babysitters to babysit and all these things. And then something happens and she has to be put in charge and she has to make all these big decisions. And, her father has to realize that she's growing up and she's not a little kid anymore and all these things. So I liked it. It was fine. 3.5 stars. I'm enjoying my reread through the series. The next book that I finished was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I did listen to this one on audio. The bulk of it was listened to on audio. I thought about this yesterday. I have not listened to a full book on audio. I've listened to a lot of bits of audio, but I did start reading this one as a print book and then switch to the audio. So I did own the audio copy from Audible. It was an Audible exclusive at the time, and it was narrated by Anna Massey. And she actually plays, for those of you who have read Rebecca, she played Mrs. Danvers in a TV adaptation of Rebecca in 1979. So the narration on this was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave this 5 stars. This is like my third reread through this book. I love it. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the story of Rebecca, it's basically told in first person by an unnamed narrator. You never learn the woman's name. And she's telling the story of the fact that when she was quite young, I mean, she was only in her early 20s. I think even probably like, it sounds like she would have been like 20, 21 years old. Like she was young. And she was a companion for this woman in Monte Carlo, which was very common, I guess, back then, that these wealthy women would hire these young girls to be companions to them, to travel with them and kind of like be like a maid in a way, but they called them a companion as opposed to a maid. But she did all these things for her. Like she would pick up her cleaning, or she would, rush and get her like a coffee or whatever the case may be. And when she's in Monte Carlo, the older woman gets sick. So she's kind of given some time off. Like they hire a nurse to look after the woman. So she's kind of, and she meets this man named Mr. De Winter, and he is quite a bit older than her. It sounds like he's like in his mid 40s, like probably about my age. And he fancies her, I guess. And the two of them end up getting married. And he takes her back to his estate in England called Manderley. And there is something going on with his deceased wife how did she die? There's a whole thing behind it. This is very gothic. Mrs. Danvers, the lady who like kind of runs the household, she's like the housemaid, I guess. She doesn't much like the new Mrs. De Winter, if you will, and keeps comparing her to Rebecca, which is the dead wife's name. It's just a whole thing. This is a great book. I really, really enjoyed it. I know it's not for everybody. I did a read along here on the channel, and a few people didn't love it, but most people do really enjoy it for what it is. It is a classic, in my opinion, a more modern classic, I would say. But yeah, 5 stars. I loved this. I was so happy to do a reread of it. I've been meaning to do it for quite some time, and I'm really happy I did. So I'm looking forward to diving into more of Maurier. The only other one that I have read is Frenchman's Creek. I think it was Frenchman's Creek. The one about the pirates, or was that Jamaica Inn? One of those, the one about the pirates. It was either Frenchman's Creek or Jamaica Inn. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, doesn't matter. The last book that I finished this week was Unlikely Alibi by Lisa Childs. This is the second book in the Colton 911 Chicago series. This is Harlequin Romantic Suspense number 2123, and it was published in February of 2021. I read this one as an ebook, and I borrowed it from Hoopla. I gave it 4 stars, and this one had 2 chili peppers. So this is the story of Heath and Kylie. So I can't give too much of this one away, mainly because the first book in the series ends on a cliffhanger, and then there's a murder that takes place, and it's the murder that's being investigated in this book. And that murder carries over throughout the rest of the series. So I can't say who's been murdered, let's put it that way. But there's a murder that happens. And Heath is the CEO of a company called Colton Connections, and he is kind of being looked at for this potential murder. And his vice president, Kylie, they're very good friends. They've been together, like friends, like they've been working together for like 5 years. She gives him an alibi, and she says, like, we were together, but we've been together, if you will, quote unquote, for quite some time. And we've been doing it in secret, kind of an idea. Like, they've been a couple. So now they have to pretend to be a couple, and then there's this whole thing going on where it looks like someone's coming after them. Like, they're being looked at by the police as the suspects for this murder, but they're also actively someone's trying to kill them, basically, is basically how it's going. And I enjoyed it. I thought this was a really great book. It did take me a while to get through. I was reading a lot of books at the same time, so sometimes some of these things kind of like, but yeah, I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really great addition to the series, and I'm looking forward to continuing on with it, because I want to see exactly, that overarching plot, what exactly is happening with everything. So yeah, I am enjoying it. But anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. That's what I read this week. Let me know in the comments below what was your favorite book that you read last week. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.